Over the last week, high schools across the nation have given permission to their students to ditch class and go protest ICE. Yep. Forget about that education you're going to need for the rest of your life. Just go fuel some hate, would you? Well, those schools have failing academic records in math and English. North Central High in Indiana, 14% of students are proficient in math, 24% proficient in English. Roosevelt High in Chicago, a little bit over 22% proficient in English, with a dismal 7% proficient in math. And at Tolson Union High School in Arizona, 20% proficient in math, 25% proficient in English. That's according to the state's Department of Education Comprehensive School Report Card System. And Fresno High School in California, under 10% proficient in math, just under 38% proficient in English. We've reached out to all of these schools for comment. So far, 2 schools have responded. Here we are from Tolson Union High. The district superintendent told Outnumbered, quote, "We provided the full context of our knowledge of the student protest to parents and the local municipalities prior to the walkout. Our teachers are not equipped or authorized to restrain 30 teenagers from walking out of their classroom. The ACT is a college admissions exam, not a proficiency exam. Our schools are all as and BS on A's and B's." Okay, I don't know what they spelled there, but Arizona's comprehensive letter grade system, and one of our schools has ranked nationally as high as 21. A spokesperson from Chicago, the other school system we talked to, CPS allows for students to participate in planned civic actions, including walkouts or protests, for a period of time during the school day, according to CPS guidance.
Okay, guys, so just reacting here to this news clip from Fox News. So you have school systems allowing the students to walk out to protest ICE. And you know, when they did the statistics on the school systems, they're failing in math and reading. Like only 20%, sometimes 9%, you know, just it's crazy, man, because like, you know, this is the time when these kids, you know, actually need to be in class learning, because these are going to be the young adults, you know, eventually that's going to come out into the workforce, or, you know, just come out into life, and then they're not going to be equipped with the basic skills in order to, you know, succeed in life. You know, reading and knowing how to answer track your money I mean, that's kind of basic. And so, you know, if they're failing even in school to be able to be proficient in those things, man, it's not a good outlook on us going forward, man. And, you know, as you see, you know, they did the statistics on several schools, and I'm pretty sure this is going on in a lot of different states. School systems are failing these kids, you know. Of course, they're not equipped to stop 30 teenagers from leaving school and stuff like that, but, you know, somebody can be smart enough to, you know, try to, you know, say something to get them to stay in school. It's just like, you know, they'd rather do anything but be in school. And, you know, they're going out and protesting ICE, and it's just like, you know, ICE is trying to make sure to get, you know, people out of the country that will more than likely do harm to you if you ever cross their path, you know. Um, you know, they've already done some of the most egregious things, and, you know, they're just trying to get people who are here illegally and who shouldn't be here, who are bad actors. You know, it's not going to be the everyday normal, you know, person who is, you know, here legally going to work and, you know, doing what they're supposed to do. I just feel like a lot of these kids, man, they just really want a reason to get out of school, and that's just sad, man, because you know, being, you know, an adult at this point, I realize how important just having a basic education is. And, you know, you're not even if you're not able to get like one of the crazy high paying jobs, man, you can at least get a job that'll be able to sustain your lifestyle and allow you to have things, man, so that, you know, you're not out there, you know, committing crimes in order to live, you know. Just real sad how the school system is failing these kids.
None of them above 50%, Molly. Not one in math or reading.
Yeah, and I think part of the issue here is actually the free speech rights of students. They don't leave their free speech rights completely at the door when they get into the high school, but they're also not supposed to be disruptive. So the school's put in a pretty awkward position. The other thing I think worth noting about this is how deeply impacted America's teenagers are by this issue that's unfolding. What they're protesting in this particular case are ICE detentions. And in some of the schools, there are students that they know that are detained and in ICE and facing a whole new future. You know, it's their friends. So many of them just feel it very personally. And I think that's worth noting and maybe listening a little bit to the students. But
Yeah, I give her that. That's a good point. If you have friends who are, being affected by this and they, you have a close relationship with them, I could see this definitely affected them to the point where they feel like they can, they want to go out and do something about it. Um, my thing is, this is, ICE was very popular in the Obama administration as well, where, they had children in cages, and not saying that that's justifying any type of kids being detained or anything like that, but you know, it has already happened in history, and what we do know is that these protests, a lot of times they're not peaceful, and even if they are peaceful, you really just impeding on the federal agents doing their jobs. And you can also be put in a situation to where, anything can happen to you, So, of course, everyone has a right to protest and, do what you need to do. But as you see, a lot of people out there protesting, man, they obviously don't have any jobs, or if they have jobs, they just don't care. They don't care as far as like being able to sustain their lifestyle or their living conditions. They I mean, they just really just don't care because they're out there protesting. And now for these students, instead of them being in class and trying to, get more proficient and better at, reading and math, they're spending their time protesting, and these federal agents are still going to continue to do their job. That's just the whole thing about this.
at the same time, you can't let it get out of hand, and the schools have to step in before it becomes problematic. In that particular school, they're talking about having a window where students are allowed to participate, maybe get them back in the classroom as quickly, let them blow off steam. I don't know what the right answer is, but I know America's youth are worth listening to. And I think it's a challenge for schools all over the country. But I don't know that a walkout is necessarily going to improve or cause major problems in their math or English. That's probably a greater challenge.
Would you side for maybe a communication inside the classroom, which is what Molly is saying, and offering that as an alternative to a walkout? Do you think those kids would go for that?
No. What are you doing? What is going on? You're basically telling little Billy and Susie from Illinois to Fresno, California, hey, listen, you're dumb as a bag of rocks because you can't do basic arithmetic and reading and English and math, but yet you're going to be a great social justice warrior. Get out there and lean in. That is a recipe for disaster for life. It's a recipe for disaster for the college educators who are saying, we are getting these kids that can't get anywhere near the proficiency levels they need to be prepared to enter college. Look, at the end of the day, I understand the young people's passions, but educators leaning into social justice messages and getting out there makes no sense. If you asked the 7% proficient Chicago kids or the 9.5% proficient kids in Fresno to literally try and compute the percentage ratio of ICE agents on the street to illegal criminal aliens in your community, they wouldn't come in. There's no way they could do it. I just
because
can't
they don't know
believe
math.
that these schools continue to lean into
I get
this.
it.
We already learned this lesson. We've got to prepare kids for college. That's the point of high school.
If not college, definitely like vocational schools or, trade schools so they can become productive members of society, man. We're just really setting up our young people to, come out here and feel like they have to do stuff to, to get by. And, it's already generations of young people now who are struggling with affordability, struggling to, purchase their first houses, struggling to have cars and struggling to pay bills, struggling to eat, and it's going to get even worse. Especially with these numbers, man. These numbers are just crazy. And if they knew how it was going to be in the future, man, they would really just be in class trying to get their numbers up. Because I mean, not even 50%, not even 30% in some of these places where they're proficient in just the basics, and you come out and you're being influenced to go out and be social justice warriors, or people who are out there protesting and stuff like that, trying to get your message across. I mean, it's like ants in an ant farm, man. It's just like, it's a lot of them. Um, and you can all work together for a common goal, but at the end of the day, government is just like that big human who can just come in and exterminate the whole ant farm, or, step on all the ants, pour water on all the ants. So it's of course, man. The school systems have their hands tied because it's on this, but so much they can do. And like he was just saying, man, it's just basically like, man, they're just like giving up on these kids. Basically, like, you're never going to get it, and you know, even if we put all our efforts into it, it's still more than likely that you're not going to get it. And I think that's the wrong way to look at it. Um, again, it's just like the school systems in these areas are just giving up on these kids, and pretty much, man, giving up on these next generations, as far as like the young people who are supposed to step up and be productive members of society and lead the society, to a new frontier, wherever that may be or however that may come. But yeah, when I seen this, man, it's just like, dang, man, because of course, like, I have, nieces, nephews, and stuff like that coming up through these school systems, and it's just like, and this is how they're preparing y'all for life. And once y'all actually get into the real world and actually see how life works as an adult, you're gonna at least wish you had those basic skills to kind of progress yourself, and not have you snatching it or sitting at just sitting around with your hands under your butt, not doing anything. But I'm gonna go ahead and close this out, man. It's real sad how they setting up these kids coming that are 4 years in high school, man. It goes by so quick, and before you know it, you're an adult and you're out here trying to find your way. And it's pretty difficult, especially if you're not equipped with the right skills, or the right education to do so. But I'm gonna go ahead and close out. Again, if you like my content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. This is Justin Paul. Peace.